Flame, 1905 to 1907. Sweatshop. After a morning meal of hard bread, 2 eggs shared between the 5 of us, Papa takes Marcus to shul to pray for Nathan. I go looking for work. I start at this school. I can speak, read, write 2 languages. Surely someone will pay for a tutor. The director turns me away, but kindly. English is the only tongue of interest here. Next, I try the grocery stores. They do not even tell me why I'm shooed away quickly and not so kindly. The day dawned bright and clear. Now heavy clouds have moved in. A drizzle darkens the cobbles beneath my feet. I stop in a cafe, spend a penny on a glass of milk for lunch, sip slowly so my stomach thinks it's enough. Each day the soup is thinner, our portions of bread smaller, Benjamin's rumbling stomach louder. Mama does not say it, but I think we're near the end of our coins. In the shtetl, at least we had a kitchen garden, community donations to feed the hungry. But here, a garden is impossible and no one has extra pennies to give. The waiter, at least, has a helpful tip. He says, there are always jobs at the garment shops for girls like you. I wonder what that means, a girl like me, but I follow his pointing arm to the shops up the street. It is there I learned my first English word, sweatshop. There's no Yiddish or Russian translation for the rows and rows of women and girls, some of them younger than me, breathing the air clogged with smoke from the coal-burning stove. Shoulders hunched, sleep-starved eyes squinting at the fabric before them, ears ringing with the bang, bang, bang of the machines. All those grim faces. Is that what the waiter saw in me? I have to shout to make myself heard as I visit shop after shop after shop asking for work. I have to say, if I'm looking for work in a place like this, it must be true. I am one of those desperate, grim-faced girls. Celebration. And I'm on page 141. I'm not the only girl looking for work. I visit 3 shops before one in a cellar below a clothing store 10 blocks from where we live has an opening for an apprentice to a subcontractor. The workers, teenage girls like me, middle-aged women, a handful of men, cut, iron, stitch together pattern pieces of starched white cotton into tapered blouses called shirtwaists. Starting tomorrow, I'll work 7 days a week, 10 hours or more each day. I will earn $6 to bring home at the end of each week, though I have to buy my own needle and thread. Now that I have found work, I can begin English classes at the free school in the evenings. I buy a fat salted pickle to celebrate, take tiny ant-sized bites so it lasts all the way home. Obedient. I should be happy to bring home money for my family, but I know now why I found a job so much faster than Mama. The shops prefer to hire girls who will work longer days for less pay. Have we not been told all our lives that a good girl is obedient, biddable, meek? All these good girls marching to work before the sun rises, marching home again after it has set, balancing bundles of piecework on their heads. An army of girls trained in silence. I have never been obedient or biddable or meek. In this world where I am made to be something I'm not, small, secret things wither inside me. Lock. Slam, twist, click. Locked inside a brick box. Bile rises, lungs pumping. Workers shuffle to their stations. Stools creak, heads bow, needles stabbing, bobbins banging. Thread marching in, straight, steady seams. Breath settles, panic swallowed. Footsteps click, stool creaks. My own head bows down. Page 146, search. At the end of the day, the foreman unlocks the door. The workers form a line, their eyes fixed on the shard of sky just visible between 2 buildings almost touching. Their faces empty, lips drawn, tight over gritted teeth. One by one, the foreman pats the workers down, roving over curves and creases, searching for scraps of fabric or thread or dignity that might find their way out of the shop. When it's my turn, I cannot make myself take the last step forward, so he comes at me again, and I am only trying not to flinch, not to cry out, not to quiver, not to fling those hands off curves and creases that I've only ever known my own 2 hands. Sleepless. Night winds wind through the streets below, moaning, wailing. drawing down courses of tears out of a starless sky. Page 148, forbidden. My second English word is written on placards all over the shop. It means a rap on the knuckles if I talk, a clap on the back of the head if I laugh, a smack on the shoulder if I so much as hum. It seems everything is forbidden in this shop. When I walk home through gaslit streets after work, after 2 classes at the free school, Papa's anger is steaming, bubbling, like a kettle left to boil over on the stove. He says, "You were supposed to be home by 7 o'clock. I say, "I had English classes after work." "I forbid you to attend classes at night," he says. "English is not Russian, Papa. This is not the language of persecution. It is the language of our freedom." He shakes his head. "You will come home after work to help your mother with the cleaning." All my life I've been told a daughter can do no worse than talk back to her father, but I'm so tired from the terribly dull, terribly long day. I smell like that sweaty, stale room that trapped me inside all day, and I cannot bear that word one more time. I worked 10 hours for this family. I have earned an hour or 2 for myself. Truce, page 152. There is still no news of Nathan, so Papa and I have settled on an uneasy truce. The immigration documents are in English. The quarantine officials speak English. Mama keeps the house. Papa takes my brothers to shul to pray. I work, I learn English. We all do our part to bring Nathan home. Mornings. I have become adept at getting dressed in the dark, feeling for the bend in my stockings, heel, then knee, buttoning, lacing, cinching, twisting my frizzy hair up into a coil that will not unravel no matter how late I work. With my first few paychecks and the pennies from her piecework, Mama paid the rent, purchased food, covered a single wall in the parlor with creamy yellow paper, just the color of the sun rising through the window of her store in the shuttle, with squirrels and blossoming vines climbing toward the ceiling. A boiled egg, a thick slice of unbuttered bread, out the door, stepping around the rats that scrabble in the hallways down the stair. My feet find the sidewalk where the air is alive, with the sharp smell of warm rain on dusty cobbles, where I cannot see more than an arm's length in front of me, but I can hear the brisk swishing of skirts as thousands of girls walk with me. In the shuttle, we woke up with the cock's crow, with the sun rising, turning the tips of the meadow grasses into pure gold. If I'm honest, I admit that on some lonely, sleep-hazed mornings, when I cannot see a thing but the hulking shadows, black on black, of building after crumbling buildings, I long for that simple, quiet place. English classes. I wash the dishes, the teacher says. I wash the dishes, we repeat. A dozen eggs, please, the teacher says. A dozen eggs, please, we repeat. Do you want starch in the collar, the teacher says. Do you want starch in the collar, we repeat. The classroom at the free school is full of young women like me, workers, their hats tilted at an angle as they listen to the teacher's words. I'm told the men learn elsewhere, learn different phrases about work and money and business, words that will help them rise beyond this place. Learning English is no luxury, no idle pastime, no domestic exercise for me. Do they think none of us wish to rise too? No matter. I'm accustomed to schooling myself, gathering words like a squirrel hoarding nuts. Break, page 157. Nathan's absence seems to have taken years from Mama. White wings sprout in her dark hair. Her hands grow rough, her fingers tilt to the side, cramped, from balancing the thimble, pinching the needle, pressing the darts into place. Tonight she sets her piecework aside to give her eyes their day of rest. The Shabbos candles are lit. Soft smiles, murmured blessings pass around the table with the salt, broiled fish, golden brown braid of bread. We do not voice our worry. We do not speak about how tomorrow I will break Shabbos, how I will be up before dawn like every other day and go to work. Page 158, one of us. Our people have always migrated across borders, trying to find a place that will tolerate our presence for a time. We flock together like geese, flying thousands of miles, only to nest at the same small pond. At evening service, when I point out the owner of the shop where I work, Mama says, "How lucky you are to work for a man who knows the teaching of the prophets, a man who is one of us." I think, if a man drives his workers like a slave master, what does it matter over which holy book he prays? Drapers. And the morning before work, has rounded the corners, ground down the edges of my mind. I study the shop while the foreman's back is turned. I know by now if I'm to save money for college, I will have to make a higher wage. I watch. The cutter at the front near the stairs, near the air of the street above, leaning over his stack of cloth, balancing a blade long as his arm, slicing 24 pattern pieces at once. At the very top of the long list of things forbidden in this shop is cigarettes. But the cutter is a skilled, valuable worker. He pays no mind, his ashes drifting toward the scrap heap, daring the fibers to burn. I watch. The pressers lifting and lowering irons that weigh as much as I over and over all day long. I watch the drapers lifting, pinning, cinching, snipping, stepping back, heads tilted to consider their creations, called up out of a simple, unadorned cloth. Shirtwaists come in all styles, pleated, billowing, finely embroidered. Creativity and deft fingers to make small stitches are rewarded. I duck my head as the foreman clicks to the dim rear of the shop, where we, the less skilled and much less valuable workers, bend over our work, basting and trimming, stitching bits of lace and buttons to finish the look. When he's gone again, my fingers move on their own, and I watch the drapers at their work. 162, look around. We are not in the shuttle anymore. We have traded the greens and ambers and rich browns of the fertile earth for right angles, sidewalks, towers that scrape the underbelly of the sky. What is it to be a Jew is different here. Those of us who work say our prayers thrice daily, observe Shabbos in our minds and hearts only. Mama cooks and cleans all day, takes in piecework in the evenings, as if by working her fingers bare she could stitch sutures over the gash, rending this family apart. We work until we can't anymore, and still it is not enough. No man here has the luxury of studying Torah instead of working if he wants his children to eat. All my hard work goes to pay for a way of life that's impossible here. I bite my tongue to keep from calling down my own father. Look around you, I long to say. Next time you go to shul in the middle of the day, do you see anyone there but the rabbi? If you want this family to eat, get a job and hold what is holy in your mind and heart, like the rest of us. Books, page 164. Nadia, who sits next to me while we hunch over our stitches day in, day out, tells me about the East Broadway branch of the New York Public Library. She says, it's full of books for anyone to read. Anyone? I do not believe her. I laugh outright, and the foreman clicks across the room to swat the back of my head. When he's gone, Nadia whispers directions. I make her repeat them 3 times. At the end of the workday, after the foreman is done, checking our pockets and patting us down, to be sure we're not stealing from the shop, he lets us outside where spring has set a last fitful rainstorm in farewell. I walk beneath the skeleton of the Manhattan Bridge, the sounds of hammers and welding torches echoing against the cobbles. Out in the middle of the river, men work, suspended like tightrope walkers, above the river, piecing together a roadway out of thin air. On the outside, the library might be anything, a bank, a school, a government building. On the inside, it's as if someone looked into my soul, fashioned the thing I long for most. I climb the steps staring, my mouth gaping open like a landed fish. Quiet study tables fill the room. The walls are lined with shelves of books, floor to ceiling. It's as if my heart leaps out of my chest to strum the spines, thumb through the pale, hand-softened pages. Most of the books are in English, and I only know a few words so far, but I find an entire section for the Russian novelists. I will come here after work, after my English classes, when I can, a book for dessert after the long, hard days. 168, surprise. Nathan has come home. His lungs are clear, his cheeks round and rosy. It seems that in the last few weeks he has been fed better than any of us. Mama fusses and clucks over him. Papa smiles broadly to see his son return to him. My brothers hurry to rearrange the crates and pillows, make room for Nathan on the couch. I am happy, of course, that Nathan is home at last. But I wonder how we will fit another boy in this tiny apartment, how my meager salary will feed one more hungry mouth. Summer. Even the air blisters in the heat. In our building and all along the street, people drag their mattresses onto the fire escape, onto the sidewalk, onto the roof. Indoors, the air is stifling. It's impossible to sleep. The dawn hour is the coolest, but so little so that I wonder if I only imagine it. With the summer sun comes light. I can see the cobbles beneath me as I walk to the shop, stepping over and around hundreds of fitfully sleeping bodies. My feet have grown again, and my shoes pinch my toes with every step. The money I give Mama at the end of the week is enough for rent, for flour, meat and potatoes, and a little oil for the lamps. It's not enough for new shoes. I'm lucky even so. The women who work the sewing machines carry them on their backs to and from the shops every day. At 8 o'clock, when the shop door closes and locks, we sweat at the back of the workroom. Our throats dry, our faces blotched red. The pressers wield their irons with a slam and a scream of steam boiling up from the edges. It's a near thing guessing how many sips of water I can take without needing the toilet, which is in the backyard behind the shop, until the foreman unlocks the door at lunch. I spend my days dreaming of the whirring blades of a single fan, an open window to the street, the impossible, giddy longing for rain. The air cannot find this dark corner in the maze of a city. How could it, when every building reaching for the sky steals a little more from the breeze? Page 172, unchanged. The iceman came today with his delivery. It's all Mama can talk about, the wonders of this city. But life is unchanged for my brothers. They study Torah every day, as if we never left the shuttle. I want to grab them by the shoulders and shake hard. Can you not see opportunity like a trail of golden breadcrumbs laid out before you? Or if you will not go to school, let me. I will study hard enough for all of us. 173. Revolution. After work, I walk 2 blocks down Allen Street to the fish market, hurrying, hoping to find a few that have not spoiled in the heat of the day. Laundry lines crisscross the street like flags strung up for a festival. A dozen different languages, like so many brightly colored threads, weave through the air around me. I wish I could gather each one, twist it, turn it in a light, and study it. Back home, when I lift my 3 fish from their newsprint wrappings, my eyes are caught by the headlines of the Yiddish paper. The revolutionists finally come to Russia. The peasants protest against the Tsar. They want a better life for the working class. If only it were so simple. The paper is months old, and I hear from the immigrants flooding into the city every day who the peasants blamed when the revolution failed. They cry for freedom, they preach equality, just not for us. Even in the middle of the people's revolution, the people vent their anger on the Jews. Give thanks. My eyes are tired, my backside sore from sitting so many hours in a single day. I step outside, fill my lungs like dusty bellows, rusty from lack of use. These long summer days are such a gift when daylight waits even for us before it fades into dusk. No one bothers me at the study tables in the library, though the director of the free school nods in my direction as she climbs the stairs to the 2nd floor. I bargain with myself. A list of English words memorized earns a break from my mind, a chapter of a novel in Russian. The gas lights dim 5 minutes before the library closes. I gather my books, place them back on the shelves every night as I pass the checkout counter on my way outside. I offer my thanks for such a place by giving voice to a new phrase I've learned. It was a good night, yes? Tomorrow it is a good day. Yes, the clerk says with a solemn nod, inflection and a subtle correction. Tomorrow will be a good day. Lull. I practice under my breath as I work. Yesterday was, tomorrow is, tomorrow will be. Yesterday was, today is, tomorrow will be. The rhythmic battery of the machine's brakes is dogged pace. Heads unbow, eyes search for the source of the lull. A new girl, a young one, stands by the door to the shop, her hands clasped, pleading. Back to your station, the foreman shouts. Please, she says. I will be quick. You can wait till lunch for a trip to the toilet like the rest of them. If you can't wait, you must be ill. If you're ill, you can go home. Just don't bother coming back. Her face is white as the waste before us. Her back erect as she walks to her seat, struggles to feed the cloth straight through the machine's hungry mouth. 10 minutes later, the sounds of sobs, a foul smell, rise above the din. This time, the machines do not even slow as the foreman unlocks the door and throws the girl out. None of us has the heart to watch her go. Page 179, say nothing. In Russia, it was the Christians we had to be wary of. Centuries of lies and fear turned us somehow into the enemy. But here the bosses are Jews too. We are their neighbors, their nieces, their people. There's no reason for them to work us so hard to strip our dignity from us. I am not so good at being a good girl. In this country where all are free to speak their minds, it's becoming difficult to say nothing. Page 180. Tense. I walk, you walk. He, she, it walks. They walk, we walk. Yesterday I walked. Tomorrow I will walk. Today I wish I could walk out of the doldrums, the dead air that is this shop, into a life where my mind is unmoored, set adrift, free to steer into the wild, whipping winds. Bleary. Mama leaves a plate for me when I come home at night. She'd rather wait and have the meal together as a family, and she would rather I come straight home from work and that I not stay until my eyes are red and bleary, and I cannot read another word. I can stand her disapproval. I can bear Papa's condemnation. I can even shoulder my brother's scorn. What I cannot bear is the thought of this, only more of this for the rest of my days. 182. Make ready. Summer is coming to a close, even in this petrified forest of gray upon gray upon gray. The bluebirds are busy gathering bits of ribbon and twigs to line their nests. They know every shop on the Lower East Side. They wait on the drain pipes and the lintels for a door to swing open and swish closed, letting loose a dervish of dust and lint and thread. They dive from their perches, tittering and twittering, speeding their treasures off to hidden places. Make it right. The foreman pinches us, touches us. Today he grabbed Nadia's backside when both her hands were full, carrying a finishing waste to the presser's table. He laughed at her protest, her red face. I could not look away anymore. I spoke to the boss, sure he'd make it right. Hardly lifting his eyes from the ledger sheet, he said, there are dozens of girls fresh off the boats who would be more than happy to work in your place without complaining. Fired, just like that, with no pay for the week's work. 184. Rise and fall. Throngs of people stroll the streets as if nothing of consequence has happened. Walking home in the middle of the day, the autumn sun heats the back of my head until it pounds, in counterpoint to my footsteps that speed and slow as my mind turns and turns and stutters to a stop. Papa will be angry, of course, but he's not the one working day in and day out to keep us out of the poorhouse. I do not know how I will find the words to tell Mama. I make myself put one foot in front of the other across the narrow tiled entry, up the creaking stairs, gaslight catching on the tin ceiling, reflecting its moody light back at me. The door handle is cold to the touch. Mama's in the kitchen, dropping potatoes into a pot of boiling water, her face red and blotchy with her hair wet with sweat and clinging to her cheeks. What is it, Clara, she says. Why are you not at work? My mouth is dry, my tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. A mound of potato peels slides to the floor as I try to explain. Mama reaches a hand to the table to steady herself. But you work Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. She counts the days off on her fingers. You should be paid at least for that. My shoulders rise and fall. Whatever the boss decides is law, Mama. There's nothing I can do. She drops the last potato in the pot and wipes her brow. With the back of her hand, blows a breath of air toward the ceiling. Both hands reach out, beseeching. But why, Claire, did you have to speak? It was not you who was mistreated. No, Mama, I say not today, but it has been me before, and it will be me again. I take my mother's hands in my own. Would you have me stay silent while those around me suffer? She says, if you do not stay silent, you cannot work. If you do not work, how will we eat? It is only then I see Marcus and Nathan in the parlor listening to every word. Questions, accusations in their eyes. 188 at home. I work the dough with my palms, thrust and lift, fold and thrust. I thought things would be different here. Thrust and lift, fold and thrust. But not for girls. Not anywhere. Thrust and lift, fold and thrust. I move to the window, gulp sour air dense with yeast. Outside buildings press together like gulls fighting for a perch on a bobbing buoy. Clouds shuttle past the tips of distant buildings, privy to private currents of air. I wipe the sweat from my brow, careful not to touch anything with my dough-scummed hands, careful not to disturb Nathan and Benjamin as they bend over their books, as they mutter and pray. A burst of hot breath, back to the kitchen, thrust and lift, fold and thrust.